Good day everyone, my name is Linardi, and in this analysis, I'm going to explore the internal themes, ideas, and personal significance of the poems Making a Fist and Two Countries by Naomi Shihab. So let's get started. After a brief research regarding the context and background of the poet herself, the two poems are strongly influenced by the personal experiences of Naomi Shihab. So the title poem of Making a Fist suggests an idea of internal strength and resilience, especially in dealing with hardships and challenges, along with fear of the unknown. On the other hand, the title Two Countries implies the speaker's experience of living in two distinct countries. So the speaker of the first poem is an adult woman recalling her memory of when she was traveling with her mother as a child. And during the trip, she was suffering from an illness. It is known that the speaker is on a trip as seen in the line, first time on the North Road of Tampico. And then the second poem, Two Countries, the speaker is a person using a voice that uses the expression of skin to describe and reflect the complexity of her cultural identity, along with the feelings of loneliness and detachment. This can be seen in the lines, "When skin is not touched, a grey tunnel of singleness, feather lost from the tail." So based on the connection between the mother and the child in the first poem, along with soft description of feather lost from the tail of a bird, it is implied that the speaker of both poems is female. The characteristic and circumstances of the speakers in both poems mirror the personal experience of the poet herself, Naomi Shihab, who is a wandering or traveling poet with intercultural upbringing. And then the tone of the first poem at first is reflective, with a sense of helplessness at first, since the speaker is reminiscing about the time when she thought she was going to die from her sickness, from her illness. She expresses her despair over her situation. And then next, the tone shifts to assurance, to confidence, when the speaker's mother comforts the speaker, as seen in the line, "When you can no longer make a fist." And then the tone shifts once more to hopeful reflection at the end, as the speaker expresses her joy and hope of better days lies ahead. And then, meanwhile, the tone at the start of the second poem is sad, bleak, and isolated, with a depressing mood as the speaker expresses her feelings of loneliness, which is evident in the line, "When skin is not touched, a grey tunnel of singleness, feather lost from the tail." And then the tone of the speaker changes again to optimistic and introspective, as seen in the line, "Skin had hope, that's what skin does," where the speaker finally reflects on her hope of healing, of adapting, adjusting in two distinct places that feel like home to her. This is evident in the line, "Love means you breathe in two countries." Next, in the poem Making a Fist, the speaker uses the expression of a drum in the desert, harder and harder to hear. And this is a metaphor to describe her feelings of uncertainty and fear that are slowly taking over her emotion. And then the line, "Stomach was a melon split inside my skin," is also a metaphor used by the speaker to express her extreme pain from the sickness. Meanwhile, in the second poem, the speaker uses the personification of skin to represent humans and their longing for a physical or emotional feeling. Also, the word skin can also refer to the speaker herself, who still has recollections of loneliness, even when she is not alone, and this is evident in the line, "Even now, when skin is not alone, it remembers being alone." And then the poem Making a Fist has a vivid auditory imagery. A drum in the desert, harder and harder to hear. The speaker is comparing her feelings to a drum, her heartbeat. And then, furthermore, there is a visual imagery in the fifth line, watching palm trees swirl a sickening pattern past the glass. This describes the speaker's feelings of disorientation because of her sickness. In the second poem, the visual imagery of a grey tunnel of singleness describes the speaker's own monotonous emotional isolation. The imagery of feather lost from the tail of a bird, swirling onto a step, swept away by someone who never saw, suggests the speaker's own delicate feelings, which are easily cast aside because of her dual cultural identities. And then the first poem explores various themes such as coming of age, hope in overcoming fear, and greatness, along with internal resilience when facing challenges or obstacles in life. So as the poem unfolds, the speaker is shown to mature, to grow from her fears, as well as precariousness, and grow into a person with optimistic views on life. So the lines, "the borders we must cross separately, stamped with our unanswerable woes," suggest a message that every person has their own challenges, personal challenges that are hard to describe logically. And then in the lines, "I who did not die, who am still living, still lying in the backseat behind all my questions," the speaker is reminded of this message as she continues to clench her small hand to a fist. And this is a symbol for the internal might and resilience inside every single individual that will continue to develop through time. And then the second poem explores the themes of struggle in navigating different identities, intercultural adaptation, sense of place or belonging, and personal connection. So the speaker expresses the connection that she feels from two countries with distinct and complex cultural settings. So she feels she is connected with these two countries, which leads to her feeling lonely from time to time as people only recognize her surface identity, not her identity as a whole from these two distinct countries. So one part of her cultural identity can be seen in the line, "hip like a city, gleaming dome of the mosque." So overall, the poem expresses that we may find ourselves caught with the feelings of detachment and loneliness in our struggle of connecting two different identities. Even so, the world is an even bigger place than we realize, so we must continue to seek new experiences that will broaden our worldview and help us to alleviate our sense of loneliness. And then there are some differences, of course, between the two poems, especially in the emphasis of ideas. For example, the first poem, "Making a Fist," centers around the internal power, strength, and resilience in the face of challenges and difficulties, while the second poem, "Two Countries," focuses on the complexities of intercultural identity and how it affects our lives. But the two poems also share some similarities, especially when dealing with the themes of hope. So the poem, "Making a Fist," explores how each of us can overcome our fears in times of struggle. This is expressed in the line, "Years later I smile to think of that journey, the borders we must cross separately, stamped with our unanswerable woes." Similarly, the second poem reflects on the hope of healing from feelings of isolation and adjusting to the life between two different worlds, which can be seen in the line, "Skin had hope, and that's what skin does. Heals over the scarred place, makes a road. Love means you breathe in two countries." So Naomi Shihab Nyai's ideology from the two poems centers around her own belief of the inherent human capabilities to conquer their own fears, to endure hardships, to adapt to the complexities and intricacies of the cultural world. She uses some of the crucial elements of her own personal experience as an inspiration to the poems, so that she can form an emotional connection to the readers and present her ideas in a poignant and relatable way. That's all from me today, and I'll see you again next time. Have a good day, everyone.